we're here for peace and pot, and we won't give up.
You're looking at video of an owner of a Toronto dispensary being arrested a short while ago. She calls herself a pot activist and says the Emerys are close friends of hers. They were arrested last night before heading to a pot festival in Europe. The CBC's Greg Ross joins us now live in Toronto with more. So Greg, tell us what happened at Mark Emery and Jody Emery's bail hearing.
Well, we were there for most of the day today, expecting that they would have a bail hearing, and then not that long ago, just in the last hour or so, we were given word that that bail hearing has now been postponed until tomorrow. And the reason we're being told is that they are expecting more charges to come. So that means the Prince and Princess of Pot will spend at least one more night in jail. Mark and Jody Emery, as you mentioned, were arrested in the departures area of the Toronto Pearson Airport late last night. They were charged, obviously, on drug-related charges. We know that because the bail hearing that they were supposed to have today was supposed to be in the courtroom that is designated for drug-related charges, but police aren't commenting on what those charges are. They were expecting that they would be out of jail right now on bail. And as for now, that has been put on hold.
And so the Emery's arrest led to marijuana shop raids across the country today. Tell us more about that.
This is a day that I can only describe as bizarre. As we're standing at the courthouse, we start getting word that these raids are happening at this chain of medicinal marijuana shops right across the country that are run by Mark and Jody Emery. They're called Cannabis Culture. And we were told that a number of them were being raided. In fact, some of them were even posting the raids on their Facebook pages as it was happening. And then some of the owners were actually at the courthouse to support Mark and Jody Emery in their bail hearing, and when that word got out to police, they suddenly swarmed the place, and within minutes of getting there, they were making arrests at the courthouse and dragging people out in handcuffs on a very bizarre day. Again, the people obviously very shocked. We're not expecting to be arrested today, Andrew.
Yeah, and we're showing some of that video now. And so, Greg, are police saying anything about possible charges?
Police aren't saying anything about what charges these people are facing. Now, one man that I actually did get a shot of as he was leaving the courtroom did say to me that he was being charged for possession with the intent of trafficking, which he says he didn't understand why. He thought that he was operating legally. This is a medicinal shop that he was running. But we did talk to police today, and they say that that is a misconception, that all of these shops, these medicinal marijuana shops, are operating illegal. Because even though there are laws that say that medical marijuana is legal in this country, there are laws that govern how you can sell medical marijuana, and police saying today that all of these shops are operating illegally, and that's why these raids were happening today. That's why these arrests are happening today. Here's what Mark Pugash of Toronto Police had to say about that.
I can tell you that 11 warrants were executed across the country this morning, 2 in Vancouver, 2 in the Hamilton area, and 7 in Toronto, and it targets illegal dispensaries. The warrants were under the Criminal Code and the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act.
So we can confirm that there were 4 shops in Toronto that were raided today. We know that there was a shop in Hamilton that was raided, and we're also told that the owner of that Hamilton shop was arrested in her home, and of course a shop out in Vancouver where Mark and Jody Emery live was also raided today, Andrew.
And then just finally, what's interesting about all of this is that the backdrop to it is that marijuana will be legalized. Are people talking about that today and feeling that maybe this is a little heavy-handed, given that the law could change any moment?
Well, that's something that a lot of the pot activists were saying at the courthouse today. And, you know, I've been covering these stories for the last little while now, and that's been one of the issues that comes up, because it seems a lot of these charges get thrown out of court before they ever see the inside of a courtroom, because of the expectation that pot will be legalized in this country before the end of this spring. So as it stands right now, we're uncertain about where these charges are going, but Toronto police at least remaining firm in the fact that they believe this is illegal, and that is why they carried out these raids today.
Greg, thank you. The CBC's Greg Ross live in Toronto. The Minister of Health was asked about those pot raids today. Specifically, she was asked when she would introduce the Liberals' promised legislation on pot that would see it made legal. And she said again it would come this spring.
Clearly, any legislation that gets introduced has to go through a parliamentary process. It has to be duly considered by the House of Commons and ultimately the Senate as well. And then there are often regulatory processes that have to be put in place. So people need to recognize that things take time. This is something that has to be done correctly. It's something that we feel very strongly about as a government. It's a firm commitment of our government to legalize access to cannabis, to regulate that access and to restrict it appropriately. And so we must do this correctly. It's transformational. We are the first OECD country in the world to do this. So we want to make sure that this is done properly. And people need to recognize it will take some time, but it will be done.